Welcome to the Positive Pen Podcast, where your stories and soul work matters. Now let's dive in. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. Hello.
Hello.
It's interesting about these podcasts. Anything can happen on the fly, especially when it's live. So as you were coming on, I didn't see you coming on, so I kind of started the podcast, and I was going to go into some other things. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it, Camille.
Thank you for having
Did
me.
I say that right?
It's Camille.
Camille. All right.
Yes.
And you're coming from France, right?
Yes, I'm French, but I'm actually dialing in from Spain.
Spain. What part of Spain?
Mallorca, the Baleares.
Where?
Near next to Ibiza.
Okay, I don't know that part. Is that south?
It's an island in the Mediterranean, so it's off the coast of Barcelona.
Barcelona. Oh, I know the Barcelona.
It's sort of north east, so Mediterranean side.
So what made you pick there?
Oh, it was a very irrational decision. I first went to Barcelona, which was like a kind of 15 years dream in the making.
Yeah.
Whilst I was living in London, so I'm also half British by naturalization.
Okay.
And I spent a bit of my teenage years in the States, in Texas. So here you go.
Oh,
international life stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really good. And really after Barcelona, work and home contracts ended on the same month. I thought life was pushing me to explore something new. I ended up in Mallorca with a friend, and on the last day, it just came as a revelation that I needed to come back. So, like a lot of people who come here, you come here for a few days and then you end up staying for life. So, or a bit of life.
That's good. Well, welcome. A little off today's, a little bit off the start, but also a very interesting start. I didn't know you live on an island in the Mediterranean area. That's awesome. So if I can do a little bit of an intro, a little bit. So a little bit of dialogue here is that I want to get everybody familiar that this month is the book funnel for the June authors. And in that situation, what we're doing is promoting people, independent authors that are actually residing on Substack. And what I'm trying to do is promote them and get them out there, but also, public, it'd be notes and a couple other things. And hopefully everybody is participating. And what we're asking for readers, more or less, is to click on them, read it. If something resonates with you, please buy it. If it jumps on a portal like Amazon, what we're asking is to leave a review, whatever, because it helps them sell more books and things like that. The other thing is today's article that I wrote was called "Exhaustion of Seeing Yourself Clearly," which kind of resonates with you a little bit. That one had to do with just more of an awakening, and when you wake and when you get awakened, you can't see the world the same. it's like you suck. It sucks because now you can't. I don't know, but I don't know. I know.
I had something like this recently. I was compiling an album photo for my dad's 70th. My dad turned 70 this year. I turned 40, and I was looking at all of these photos from my time in London, and I had a career and a partner, and everything was on track. And I'm like, it felt like it was easier then. And I know it was not, because there's always a part of me that wants more or looking ahead, but I feel like the space I'm in now is, instead of looking to like climb more mountains externally, is actually like go a bit further down internally.
Right.
And you're right, once you see the world from this place of integrity and essence, it's so hard to pretend anything else is true.
Yeah, I mean, So we're backtracking a little bit. We're all over the place, which is,
Yeah,
hope you're okay with that because I don't really
that's
have
the way I do things, to be
okay,
honest.
perfect. So when I wrote about you, the reason why I wrote about you because you had a yoga pose, and I thought,
Mhm,
well, that's kind of cool. And I read about your story, and then I also, but in that yoga pose, one of the things that I was thinking about is like I was doing yoga as myself, and I was kind of getting myself into it and kind of like getting my because I had, you know, but in yoga, one of the things it helps you grind it actually puts you more of a presence and you
mhm,
feel your body, you got to feel your breathing, you're feeling your mind, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
yeah,
I don't do justice because I'm completely an amateur at this, but when I started doing it, I started realizing that not everything has to you don't have to occupy everything.
mhm,
Does that make
yes.
sense? I mean, like
Yeah, absolutely. And yoga is not a lot of people. When I started yoga probably, I think my first yoga class was like 2007 or something.
okay.
And then I really started a regular practice since 2011. And when I did my teacher training course in 2019, I remember a lot of people were like, oh, I can't do yoga, I can't touch my feet. And I thought, that's not the point of yoga. It's not stretching. It's, as you said, it's really you're on the mat and anything outside of the mat does not matter. But the only thing that's really interesting is whatever's happening in your mind, in your body, whilst you're on the mat, is actually a reflection of what's happening in life. And the way you do yoga is the way you do life. And yoga as a sentence, as a word, come from yog, which is in Sanskrit means one.
Mhm.
And so really it's about uniting your breath, your body, your heart, this present moment, your soul, and whatever kind of paradigms and words kind of resonate with you in that sentence. But it's a lot more than a body practice. And it's a lot more than performance, it's actually presence. And the more I think you practice this, then for me it started off as I needed something to ground my mind. I was going through a lot of life shifts. I was partying a lot. I was working a lot. London life, we all
The
have our
parting didn't
struggles.
work anymore for you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
no, not so much. But I think we need the balance, I think there's a lot of kind of false image out there of like the person who's a vegan and doesn't drink coffee, and like I could say all those things as well, like not drinking alcohol, blah blah, but it's like we're human. And anyone who makes you believe they're not human, they're actually hiding something from themselves and probably from the world. But I think with yoga, it just I realized the days that I didn't do yoga, I realized it because then I was more stressed and more
Right.
anxious or more activated or more reactive, and yoga helped me create that buffer. But then it sent me in so many other directions after that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just trying to remember all the story that I wrote for you because I'm kinda like I'm just trying to look for it right now.
Yeah.
Um, but part of it was, I think and like I said, today's story that I wrote really resonates with yours in the sense that, like w don't get me wrong, I drink, but I don't drink like I used to.
Hmm.
Like, when I was younger, I used to drink,
To
every
oblivion.
weekend and all that kinda stuff, but I've been finding it more and more challenging to drink because of as you grow older, your body changes and all that kind of stuff, and then health becomes more of a priority, I guess, at your later age,
Hmm.
which has been more mine. But when you kind of so when we like going to a club when I was
Hmm.
younger was different. Everybody was there partying, and you want to do what you want to do. Like it was
Hmm.
a free for all, more or less.
Hmm.
Today, when I go into a bar with the music, I tend to lean more of the softer music
Hmm.
than because I just wanna enjoy myself. I'm not there to rock and roll or,
Hmm.
do the disco,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if that's part of the awakening process where you start seeing those type of life as a distraction
Mm.
versus what your purpose is. Like, that's what I'm
Hmm.
saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm just using the most simple, lame.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you kind of started seeing like, "Wow, I don't really like this, I like this. I don't
Yes.
really like" I don't really want to be in this part of the world. I like this.
Mhm.
Does that make
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think that was part of the shift that was happening for me was, as I said, I was in London, I had a career, I was growing, I was in high pressured environments, I was thriving. And then the weekends, I was going out. I was doing yoga on a Saturday morning, going for brunch, and on a Saturday night, going out clubbing, or Saturday afternoon sometimes. And I loved it, and I wouldn't take anything away. And I think
Yeah.
there's something primal about techno music. Even I still like it, even if I go in those spaces fully sober, which is a strange experience. And I kind of already did that back then, because before I turned 30, I said, like, okay, I'm not drinking for X days, and it's quite funny because at the time people thought I was pregnant, and it's like, oh yeah, I can choose not to drink without actually being pregnant, or recovering alcoholic. But anyway, and I think what I realize is now, with more awareness, maybe I don't necessarily want to be in those spaces, because I feel I'm also a bit more sensitive to the loneliness and the escapism that happens in those spaces. The dancing and music I can, but maybe in more conscious spaces where actually everyone is sober, um, which exists a lot here. And it's strange for someone who only knows the real clubbing experience and then suddenly steps into those spaces, and people don't dance like they're clubbing. They just let their body flow in a very free way, which is, again, an experience in itself. But it's, the London life, super high, fast paced and everything. I come from the south of France. So I come from, my mom was born in Lourdes. My dad came from near Bordeaux. I come from quite a slow way of life. And for me, London was never actually a dream. Maybe Paris was a dream, but then suddenly I got caught up in life and thrived in it again. And I couldn't have achieved anything higher than that. It felt like that anyway. But it wasn't enough, because really what I realized I valued most was times with people I care about, and actually sunshine and the sea. And that became very incompatible with London very
Yeah.
quickly. And now I'm here. I love going back to London or even Barcelona. There's a dynamism there that's incredible. And there's also the hustle, the hamster wheel. And now I'm realizing there's a total different way of doing life. And I've been privileged enough to have done or reached the highest point I thought I could in that realm, to be like, well, I'm going to create something else. And it makes it impossible to even consider going back to these things. Yeah.
Interesting you said it's a realm. Because immediately I thought the Matrix.
Yeah.
That
The system, the matrix,
yeah, I
the
just
conventional way of life.
yeah, I immediately got, well, Matrix, is that when you said that word? So like when okay, so the hard part I think most people get to when they get in this because you can take most people say red pill, whatever, but you can
Mhm.
go in the like, and it doesn't matter about like what happened. What I started noticing more and more is that like politics were becoming boring to me. The news was becoming a lot more boring to me. I was more distracted to TV. I didn't want to do that. I was more focused on writing. I was more focused on creating because I was getting more juice out of that. I
Yes.
was more focused on natural stuff that I can get grounded to. And, I think, and what really transformed everything, and I haven't written this part yet. I was actually telling this story over the weekend. They said, "Well, what did you do during the COVID period of time?" I said, "Well, made a bed in my back of my car, and I basically went on the East Coast. I started from Cape May, New Jersey, and I made my way all the way up and on every single beach because I love beaches and I like
Wow.
sunsets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just stayed in my car, went from beach to beach to beach to beach, and I just visited all the
Incredible.
beaches by myself.
Hmm.
And someone said, "Well, weren't you lonely?" And I said, "No, I wasn't. In fact, I was full of me. I was
Yeah.
happy, you know."
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people get confused on what does it mean to be loved?
Yeah. And I think, there's two interesting points is for us, like, the media, the news, social media, all of that to me is, yes, it's a distraction. It's also a coping mechanism, like a numbing mechanism.
Yeah.
And there's a form of manipulation or like enablement, right? We start closing our mind or windows of perception into the world, and we disconnect from nature, we disconnect from the body, and we disconnect from this essence that you said is love, which is there at all times. But I think a lot of people who have never actually, again, I lived in London, so I know that the practices, you get on the tube, there's lots of people, you listen to music, and then podcasts started happening, and then people started getting addicted to listening to a podcast. I mean, even some of my team members would listen to a podcast whilst working, and I thought, wow, how do you do this? Like, I find it hard enough just to focus on what I'm doing with everyone talking around me. And yeah, I think it's quite fascinating to see just how we're constantly filling up these gaps of silence. And because silence can be so scary and confronting for anyone who has never had a silence. People who drive around a lot, they probably call a lot of people whilst they're driving. I have this in my family as well. And I said sometimes, what if you just, or when people recommend me, have you listened to this podcast? I think, well, I have a podcast going on in my head at all times. So listening to less and less input is really something that I've been practicing. And I think, and something I wrote today about, the system we live in benefits us from us looking outwards for answers, outwards for more recognition, validation, certainty, clarity. And I do this as well. And even when you're in a different kind of part of life where you're talking to healers and mediums and tarot readers, it's another form of outputting your intuition, your decision making. And sometimes it helps to gain a bit more clarity. But I think the best teacher is nature. And I had these realizations many times this year since moving to Mallorca. It's wow, like ChatGPT does nothing against this, really. And I deleted all my ChatGPT data, actually. I still use Claude, but I think, the best way to really make a decision is to silence the noise which comes from outside and to drop into the heart and body and the present. But I think sometimes a lot of people in this world have been conditioned to look outside and have also created this severance with their body, not just through food and medication and media use and everything, but also out of survival, because sometimes being in the body was too painful from trauma or whatever was happening around them that just made it impossible to be in the body. And I think that's, yeah.
No, you make a valid point, because I think a lot of people get into the point of drinking and they go
Mm-hmm.
club, like we use clubbing as an example where that was an escape, or we use drugs as another one, or
Mm-hmm.
it's it's probably one of the hardest thing to do is to do a self-discovery of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and being nice. And now I wrote a book about it, and it's not a really good book. I mean, but it's published, it's on there, but it's called COVID Was My Best Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I didn't really write it from my perspective, I tried to mask it, and because I was a little new to writing and I didn't want to do all that. But reality is, and I plan on rewriting that for some reason. I don't know when, but I plan on doing that. But one of the reasons why COVID for me was one of the best things, because I was forced to sit there
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah.
And once you do that, that's a different thing. And I've always been told that. And there's one thing you said important. All the answers are within you. And
Mm.
one of the things I always say, life w- life lives through you, not no one else. You
Mhm.
create your own destiny. You create your own imageries. You create your own
Mm.
way of life.
Yes.
And you can use Mother Nature, God, Buddha,
Mhm.
whoever you use to follow the
Mhm.
spiritual. And I don't think spiritual religion is a bad thing
Mhm.
if you go the right place. But
Mhm.
whatever that looks like, I think that type of spiritual connection to the
Mhm.
world that you live in, the universe, or whatever that
Mhm.
looks like, will
Mm.
help you tremendously through a lot of the pain that you are going through. And
Yeah.
also, the one of the things I always think is that pain is temporary.
Yeah, exactly.
Living,
Emotions last 90 seconds.
yeah, living is forever,
Mm,
and that's your
true.
choice.
And yes, so but sometimes when we're in pain, our ego is telling us it's going to last forever. And also I think it's right to raise that during COVID, a lot of like yeah, the levels of mental health conditions really rose, like shot up to the roof, because suddenly people were forced to slow down and stop. And when I say the answers are within, it's also discerning what is my mind story creating to, or the, let's say, ego versus the actual truth. You know, in certain moments, my ego might be telling me like, I'm a failure, or I'm not there, I'm not where I'm meant to be yet, or I need to wait more, or I really like, I don't know, it'll create stories to make me not go where I really need to go, to make me not do what I really need to do. And it's like discerning this part of me that is telling me stories and creating a narrative that is creating my reality, as you said, versus the actual truth within that wants to come through. And that sometimes, even, I want to say even for me, but even though I have a lot of tools at my disposal and I've been cultivating for years, it's not that easy. And so many times I look back on my shoulder and think, what, did I have it easier then? How, I know there's no way of going back there, but there's almost a big grief of, yeah, this no longer will be the same. And I mean, the only constant is change. But it's a brave path to choose the authentic path, and it's scary.
Oh, it's definitely is. I mean, I remember running away from stuff. Like I would break up a relationship because I was scared of commitment, for example,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
I wasn't really sure or convinced to the certain things. Fear does a lot to you, and the unknown. And really it's all about the unknown. You don't know. And you're like, and I remember young, when I was, I'll just use relationship as an example.
Mhm.
You get involved with somebody and you spend 2 years together and you think, oh, this is, I don't know if this is it. Or I know you have questions, but when you're younger, you start having more doubts because there's other things distracting
Possibilities.
you from you. And you're thinking, oh, there's always someone better, always
Hmm.
someone better. There's always someone better. And that's not really what you're looking for, because that's more of a materialistic value type thing. Now, if I look back to some of the relationships I had very young, and I say young, 19 years old or whatever it was, I mean, a lot of them, I wouldn't say a lot, a couple of them would have been an appropriate mate for the
Mhm.
future. But,
Mm.
obviously but I can go back and say, look, I was timid. I was
Mhm.
scared of commitment. There was more of that person in it than I was in it, not because I didn't
Mhm.
want to be involved. I mean, it was so many factors. And what happens is when you start using the materialistic values as a measurement of you as a person,
Mhm.
you lose yourself within. And what
Yeah.
happens is, even though that person may see you as a good person inside you, right?
Mhm.
You don't see that. And I think that's where the confidence comes in. When someone starts understanding who they are, it becomes more confidence. They have a little more self, they're a little more
Mhm.
alive. But when someone is kind of like detached, like two different people,
Yes.
it almost becomes very difficult to live a life like that.
Mm.
Don't you agree?
Yes. Well, I love the theme of relationships, to be honest, because yeah, I've been navigating through these themes a lot in my adulthood. You know, I don't know, as a woman growing up, I was watching Disney, and my goal in life was to, yeah, marry the love of my life and have children and da da da. And I still did the career thing, but then somehow I realized that the biggest relationship I would have would be with myself. And a book idea I had was to rewrite the whole princess, like Prince Charming thing, and actually to be like, become your own Princess Charming first. And then
Yes.
maybe you meet a king, become your
Yeah.
own queen, and then you meet a king. But I think, well, a lot of people are afraid of commitment right now. A lot of people, I don't know, at my age, I'm just meeting, and again, I don't like these limiting beliefs of no one wants to commit, because I know there are lots of people who do. But I think with commitment, there's the fear of being truly seen. There's the fear of someone really walking by our side when we're expressing our fears, when we're like in our worst light, or in our darkness or whatever. I don't like to use these polar opposites, because I think sometimes darkness is just as valid as light. And I think when we can be held by someone whilst in a very dark moment, that is true love, in my opinion. It doesn't mean we all need to go through that to have a loving relationship, but I think sometimes a lot of us shying away from commitment comes from that. And also, a relationship is a mirror. So, and anyone we meet, whether it's for an hour conversation or a friendship or a loving partnership, it's a relationship and it's a mirror. And whatever will be activated, whatever fear will arise, will just be a mirror of what's within. And so I think a lot of the ideals on relationships has been like, you meet someone and then it's like a lifelong partner. But actually, the more I look back at my relationship history and what I value, for me, of course, there's value and so much strength in people growing together and continuing to reconnect, because I don't believe you meet someone and boom, and that's it for the rest of your life, which is, we've been sold that a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think there's enough divorces out there to actually show like this is not the truth. But how beautiful it is to honor that two people may come together for an amount of their journey, and it can be a year, 8 years, or whatever, and that they can separate when it no longer is relevant, and it doesn't need to be such a feeling of failure. It's just, we've done the work that we needed to do, and we can move away.
Well, that's the thing, that you're hitting some things about. Okay, so when you go back to the marriage, yes, there's a high rate of divorce, but I think there is a lot of in that we need, that I don't really want to unpack it, but a lot of it has to do with, it goes back to there's so much marketing going on to an individual. Like, for example, a mother stay home with 3 kids, for example. The father's working all the time. The mother's on the computers doing a bunch of stuff, maybe doing some house chores, taking care of the kids, which is fine. But also in between all that is mostly on social media. The father is out there working, comes back home, and then, she's meant to be, dinner and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not saying it gets boring, but, the distractions are there. And that's more what I'm saying. And if your relationship is not as healthy as others because one's overworking, the other one's not, is just doing whatever, and not saying they're doing whatever, but I mean, like, it's just, it's not very productive in a relationship. And I think you need to have 2 people to be productive. That's my belief.
It needs to be teamwork.
Yeah, it needs
And
to
I
be teamwork.
think there's a lot of work that women do that is in the unseen. And that's to me, the very feminine touch, right? The feminine touch in a space. And it's not just about cleaning and tidying and cooking and looking after the kids, but, this reality of the mental load. And I see it in my friends who are, the majority of them are working, but even if they weren't, they are thinking about so much all day long. And I think it's a male brain versus female brain as well. But even, the idea of, oh, you're on your maternity leave, you have more time. Well, no, because actually the baby is, either asleep or needs to eat, and then it's disrupted sleep is not sleep. And the constant thinking of like, how much did they drink, like eat, and what's happening this weekend with school, and I need to like help them do this assignment, and and I'm not saying there's one side that has it better than the other, because I see the masculine side as well, who's been portrayed as like, okay, responsibility is you're the provider for the whole family, and as you have a family of 3 kids, and then you start thinking about school tuition and then university and then the cars and all of these costs, you're like, wow, I need to work a lot more, and and you feel chained to your work that you might not feel fulfilled in. And then suddenly the responsibility is projected back on the partner and vice versa, because neither of them feels seen or appreciated, which at the end of the day, all we want in partnership is to feel seen and appreciated, is to feel like we're in this
Matter.
together and not
You matter.
competing. I'm
Yeah.
doing more.
Well, I mean, I can actually see this where I had a relationship where a lady basically expected to stay home, and it just expected me to work and just take care of her. And not that I don't want that, but my philosophy has always been, I come from a family, Italian family, that we both worked. My parents worked. We all worked. We all put in the effort. We all did. And I'm not saying that's the best model, but it seemed to be a lot more productive in the sense the family was more united because everybody was doing something. And not saying that person, and the person that I'm talking to is a little older and doesn't have, young kids and all that. And she just expected somebody to come along, just throw some money down and just, she could stay home. Well, that's not a very productive, because the productiveness of that person is not going to be productive. And in the sense that and I can't do, and I couldn't be with that person.
It's valued at the end of the day.
Right. Because then it's like, you just, and I think from a male's perspective, I consider that to be an invoice. Now you just want me to pay for you to live. Like,
Yeah. I
you're
think
not taking care of my kids. You're not doing this. Like, I don't mean that to be rude, but I just look at it from an invoice point of view. Now you're now adding more to my cost of living.
right.
I mean,
I mean,
and I'm looking at it from a male perspective, and then I'm like,
but
but
is
what
there
really?
any way that your life is getting enhanced by this person's presence, your life and home?
No.
Well, if that's not the case, but
Yeah.
I do believe in that's very value intrinsic. And my parents actually, my dad was the youngest of 5, and his older sisters were working. And so when they came together with my mom, they had 3 kids. I was the youngest, but he said from the start, I want the mother of my children to stay at home. And it wasn't so that, it was like so that you can dedicate yourself to our children, to our home. And it wasn't like she didn't have a say. It was a common agreement. And my mom raised us. She did everything for us, and she had very little time for distraction, actually. And everything that he was providing for was shared for the whole family, and he never made her feel like, I'm the one working, so I'm the one deciding what we do with our money. It was
No.
like, this was the deal from the offset,
Yeah, no,
and
that from that perspective, if 2 people were young and they got into it and they said, okay, let's focus on, and if there was a collaboration of compromises, like, this is what we want to see, this is what we want to do.
yeah,
In today's dating world, especially people who are divorced, and you can't relive what you had in the other relationship and bring it into the other relationship. You can't have that.
for sure. No, for sure.
And especially when males are dealing with child support, all the other stuff that involves from a past relationship. I mean, the burden is pretty hard on some single fathers, because there's some burden there.
Yeah.
And when you go into these other relationships, that's where the awakening started to happen for me, to be honest.
Okay.
I started seeing the divorce, and I started seeing all this stuff, like things started to really pick up really fast. And then after the divorce, got involved with somebody, and then the COVID hit. That really just opened up my mind, and just, I kind of like took it upon myself, is I can't support someone else's life and support my life. Not that I don't want to.
It can be a choice, yeah.
It could be a choice. And I looked at it as, I want it. And that's where the self-discovery comes in, because now you start to prioritize what brings more value in your life versus something that
is
a cost. It's a cost to your emotions, a cost to your financial, or cost whatever. All of those matter. It doesn't mean not everything has to be financial, I should say.
For sure.
But
yes. Sometimes
you're not living in the jungle, and there's no, and the food is abundance, right? You don't have to worry about that, right? But there is.
It should be.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah.
So that's a whole other subject, but really this whole idea of surviving for money and counting every penny is just not not the way humans should be living their lives, really, when we think about the sheer volume that is out there and what money was created for initially. But that's a whole other kettle of fish.
No,
But
I
I think,
I agree
I
with what
have
you're
met,
saying. Yeah.
I have met a man once. It wasn't for me, but and he was saying he's married to his job. He loves what he's doing. He has his own company. He wants someone who's going to be at home, making him dinner every night and making his life easy. And that I know is not me. But I know, and I love to nurture and care for people. And when you're saying
Yeah.
like, what did you do during COVID, I worked my ass off because I was working for Uniqlo, and suddenly our sales shot up, and all of our communication strategy had to shift to more like loungewear versus workwear.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of things like that. And I was working on being the best effing girlfriend ever because I wanted to get proposed to afterwards.
Aw.
And so I was cooking amazing meals. I was ordering organic meat from this like shop in Chelsea, which was on the other side of town for me, even though I didn't eat meat. And I was just literally like being the perfect housewife and the perfect, whatever, employee, leader. And I think I did pretty well at all these things. But at the end of the day, I spent a summer in France because I was able to, and in my parents' house, which was so strange to like be living from there. But then I realized I just want sunshine. And it was so much more simple than everything else I'd been chasing in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember this moment of being in the sea in south of France, in Saint-Tropez. We went on holiday with my then boyfriend and his friends, 3 couples, and we had this amazing villa with a pool. And I was like, how ridiculous is it to be in the pool every day when there's the sea 20 minutes drive away, and it's some of the most beautiful beaches in France are there. And had a bit of a moment when everyone was sharing their life plans, and I said, I need to get out. So me and my then boyfriend, we drove, and whilst I got in the sea, I just felt this sense of peace. And I started walking in, and it was as if I was receiving some form of upgrade, grounding messages from the sea. And then I turned around towards him and I said, I'm going to need to do this every day. And I remember he said, well, this is new information. And that was really the beginning of the end, because I just couldn't stay in the life where I had to be in the UK part of the year, like most of the year. It just wasn't possible. So it's values at the end of the day, like values and adjustments.
Well, yeah, and what you just said there, the most important value you value is sunshine.
Yeah.
Second, probably the beach, but those are your 2 values. You want to be close to the beach. You want to be close to the ocean. You want to be close to the sunshine. And I think that's where relationships break down a lot. And I think, and you kind of put in 2 things. Number one, you created a facade for so many years. I don't know how many years that was, but you created a facade of being this perfect girlfriend, and you were losing yourself. And that's part of the awakening. When you start losing yourself, you start figuring out. And I've went through that too. Like I said, in some relationships, where that one relationship where she wanted to just do one thing, and I was losing myself trying to accommodate that. And I was like, why am I struggling? Same thing with you. You're probably saying, why am I struggling? And then you ended up going to the beach, very similar to what I did when I started going to the thing. I said, why can I not do this every single day?
Yeah.
And how do I do that every day? That's that's the next question I had. I said, how do I do this every day? Why do I need to be in the middle of a city or somewhere that I don't really care? I don't really like a lot of people because
I'm a people person, so I like people.
I know,
but I know there
I
are
mean
people
that,
and animal people, and
and I mean that with sarcasm. I
of
mean,
course.
what I
But
mean
you're
is,
also allowed to not like people. I think a lot of people don't like people for their valid reasons,
well, when I say I don't like people, I don't like people being rude and being inconsiderate and all this other stuff that goes on. That kind of bothers me a lot. And when I go into isolation or go to Mother Nature, that is a different type of atmosphere. Even the people are different too. Like, even though you put people that were in a city and their head down and all that, and they go into a woods or they go to the beach, they're 2 different people.
Yeah.
They're more themselves at that point.
Because in the city they're following a blueprint, and I think this is a thing, we're all following a blueprint of live life a certain way. That's what success is. And then I think part of awakening is realizing, oh wait, I can define success, and I can define what's important to me. And a lot of people in the old paradigm, I would say, is, well, you get a degree, you start a career, you work really hard, you marry, you buy a house, you have kids, da da da, and then when you retire, you can start, living some of your dreams and traveling to really nice faraway places, or if you have enough money, you do that during your career. But then also a lot of people get to their retirement age and then they collapse or they get diseased, or even beforehand, and then this again, I think for a lot of people, so death is a really like death of a loved one or of someone in your surroundings, especially after a certain age, is a like big wake up call, because it's like, oh, actually, I'm not invincible, I'm not eternal, and today counts more than in 10 years' time.
Yeah, like, well, one of the things I don't know exactly what you mean, but the other thing is now my children are older, and I don't have
How
much.
old are they now?
Well, they're 22, 20,
Mm-hmm.
and 18.
Yes.
One lives in Vancouver, Canada, and he's on his own there, and I worry the death of him. Like, but I really worry about him. Not that he's going to do anything, but I just trust that he's going to be okay.
Mm.
But from a father or a parent perspective, you don't have that control, in the sense that not control, but that the ability to reach out quickly to protect them. And now I know how that felt from my mother and father, when I moved away and I
Mm.
moved across the country and
Mm.
back to the area that I grew up.
Yeah.
But that's where, I think that's where the reality hits. Like, all of a sudden you're seeing your past becoming your future, or some of the other things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to him one day. He was like, I struggle here, Dad. And I said, well, yeah, that's an expensive city to live in, and
Mm.
but figure it out. Like,
Mm.
I'm proud of you doing this. I'm proud of you being there. I'm proud of you taking the leap of faith and just going for it and
Mm.
living your life that
Mm.
you wanted to do, and you did it. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But don't bail out too soon,
Mm.
because you never know what would happen. And I said, but while you're there,
Mm.
figure it out. Figure out what you want to do. Figure out what
Yeah.
life you want to have. Figure it out. Like, there's so much resources there that you don't really are tapping into.
Yeah.
Once you do, you'll be better for it.
I think it's hard for this generation as well, because I was speaking to a friend of my brother who's they're more in their 50s. He has kids who are also late teens, early 20s. And again, when I turned 18, it was a very clear path, the career path, the corporate path. But now there's all of these influencers, tech bros, Bitcoin, traders, and crypto traders. And there's so many different economies that I think sometimes, and this man in particular, he has a taller, he creates furniture, wooden furniture, which I think in the world of tomorrow, of AI, well, of today, is actually, it's an art, and it's going to become something that's just not replaceable. True craftsmanship. But for these youthful boys, it's the most boring thing, and they think he's wasting his time because he could make quick money faster, like more easily, with less effort, less physical effort. And I don't think it's laziness. I think it's ease and freedom. And I also want ease and freedom. And I believe as well, like in lifting opportunities from the world around you and all of that. But I think right now it's really hard for younger people to actually find what it is that brings them joy. because there's just too many nonsensical things out there, in my opinion. I find it quite crazy that some people, posting videos on themselves make more money than maybe, a Hollywood actor who's actually worked a real. And again, I'm not saying Hollywood actors are like the reference, but I think there's art behind some of what they do. Maybe it's the wrong reference, even an engineer, even someone who cleans bathrooms every day, like really, it's like just, to me, it's so nonsensical that there's such a variance between these worlds and these ways of making money. And I think sometimes young people just want to make money and they forget to connect with joy and connect with bliss. And something my dad's always told me, he's always like, make sure you have fun. Make sure, when I went through burnout and I started having a meltdown because I wasn't growing in my career, I felt like I plateaued. I was in the best job I could have ever hoped for, but I wasn't getting the pay rise and promotion that I wanted. And I was told I was too soft to actually step into those roles, which was when I realized, oh, it's not about my work, it's about me. So it almost made it more easy to then move away from that. But he said, just keep finding the fun in the work that you do every day. You're replaceable like everyone else, but just make sure what you do it because you have fun doing it. And of course, you need to work hard. And of course, which again, there's some values that I'm sort of aligned, but not aligned. But yeah, I think finding the joy, finding what activates or makes us want to get out of bed in the morning. That's the key.
Yeah, the biggest thing, I think, having fun while you're doing it is the most important part of anything, because if you're having fun doing it, you'll always will have fun doing it and you'll never stop doing it. I mean, and you talk about the craftsmanship of a furniture maker and the kids. I mean, that is so real, because these kids post a video and they're basically mimicking other people, and then all of a sudden they're making money. It just doesn't make sense. But I'm grateful for them. That's what they want to do, and that they love doing that. So okay, do that,
Yeah.
but when a furniture maker is making it because he loves doing it, and it doesn't really, I think at that point it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with his value system, and that he gets peace out of it. He gets comfort out of it, that he created something out of nothing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing as well, like having something material physical to touch, it gives people a sense of purpose, right? To write a book, it gives more a sense of accomplishment. And I think there's something as well in the way that maybe our brain is programmed, that we're sometimes associating our value to our output, or we can see the fruits of our labor if we can see the tangible results. And I face that a lot in myself, and I write about that a lot. Like this, I feel this inner rebel in me, like, okay, there's no real number as a result of what I'm doing, but I don't care. I still want to do it because I feel like it's important. And I also feel like in that very act, I'm rebelling against a system and a society that values this output and external sign of success. But on the material stuff, I think that also creates a lot of people who feel out of purpose in big companies. They have a job that they're extremely bored into, and they're self-medicating, and they're like numbing through all of the ways because they just don't know what else they would do.
I was there a couple of times. Yeah, you're right. It's not a fun job, because you're in corporation. You're being beaten up from the top. You get beaten up from the bottom. You're getting beaten off by. I mean, if you go in a corporate world, you're not just in competition of jobs ahead of you. You're in competition with your coworkers, the people that you're working towards getting your job. Your boss is everything's a competition, and everything's a lose-lose situation. So what happens is you're in this position and you're just doing the best you can to keep the basics out of the way. And if you do anything more, you get scrutinized. I don't know if that was the case, but in my case, that was like, if you go step out of this line, you get reprimanded. If you did more than you expected, the boss might get a little jealous, or your coworkers might get a little jealous. And then you're dealing with that type of stuff. I mean, when you're in that world, you don't like yourself more. You start to don't like, then you start to play small in that versus playing big. So when you're out on your own, like when you're doing these social media things and stuff like that, you're playing big. You're playing to what you want to do, what you care to do. And I'm not saying that it's great that these kids are making $1 million, whatever it is. I mean, great. I'm grateful for it, but also might be a little, I don't want to be judgmental, but I think it's just, it just sets a different value system of our world.
I think, I mean, personally, I was always in quite smallish teams. So actually doing more than your job title was almost the expectation, and doing more than your working hours was always the expectation. And to me, that was also my inner works of, I want to prove that I am ambitious, that I want to keep evolving, that I want to keep getting the promotion and pay rise. I want to keep giving more than what I can give. And that's my own, let's say, maybe wounding and a little bit of the female programming in this world, actually, that we're here to serve others, to put others' needs before our own. And to me, I still did it as a conscious choice, until burnout, until losing my voice, until whatever, getting sick every 3 months. But it was a choice, and I realized, I went over, and I'm not getting the recognition that I'm expecting, right? And maybe to some extent that happened in my relationship as well. But I think I actually genuinely think right now the competition, I just think that's just nonsense, because if you want a team to work together towards a greater goal, you need them to work together, not against each other. I don't even believe at the model of pressing people to the bone to extract the best out of them. I'm actually more of the soft leadership side, which doesn't mean like just let everyone do their own thing. It's like, be respected, not by force, but, by influence.
Right.
And that's a smarter way, to me, of leading. But I think festering these like words of competition is just, I know it's some of the world, but I think this is a paradigm that has to shift. And I think now anyway, we are replaceable by machines. And I know that's not fully true, because as humans, we have a creative power that AI cannot replace. AI may replace our left brain, which is the analytical and problem-solving brain, but the right brain, which is a creative, intuitive brain, AI cannot replace that. The emotional brain, AI cannot replace that, even though we've been a bit fooled in thinking that AI can be a companion and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, this is what makes us human, and this is our center of compassion, and that's why I always come back to the heart. That's, to me, the future of the workplace, is having more humans in their humanhood, in their divinity. And I think, again, for children who are graduating, who are entering the work world, they're a lot more entrepreneurs. They just think differently. They've evolved in a world with internet, social media, screens, phones. And I'm not saying all of these things are conducive to creativity, but they're creating new pathways that I didn't grow up with a mobile phone. So I don't, what my brain's been able to create has been different to what theirs will, I think. I just don't even think in 5 years' time, or even 2 years' time, I just don't even think we can grasp the shifts that are happening.
So with that said, so what creative outlets are you doing to help others?
So, I mean, writing is very much for myself, but I always think if someone reads my words, maybe that helps them. Here in Mallorca, I've created a collective. So I wanted to, again, redefine what leadership means. So looking at, the models of leadership out in the world very much value force and fear-inducing, and power because of money, right? It's like we often associate these two together. And I thought, well, I see a lot of very talented beings. I've been meeting a lot of very talented beings, not just creatives, but also business people. And I just wanted to gather them around the table and say, like, how can we redefine what leadership means together? So we move away from this very top-down pyramid-like models to actually constellations of people working together. I have skills in breathwork, yoga, nutrition, but also in CRM, email marketing, strategy, and loyalty and recognition, all of that. And how can we all benefit from each other's skills and just, again, share on our own entrepreneurial business journeys and find a bit more community within that, as well as growing together, because we have ambition, we want impact. And so that's been the most recent projects, I suppose, I developed here. When I was in Barcelona, I started the 5 Minutes for Love movement, which was all about weekly moments of meditation, grounding into the heart, for just 5 minutes. And I believe that's, like, in a way, a sense of entering the center of compassion and the center of oneness, right? Other people might be triggering us, but they're just a reflection of us in a way. And I think if everyone connected with their hearts, there wouldn't be wars, there wouldn't be fights. I'm a very idealist when I speak these ways, but I believe sometimes we've forgotten our essence when we get into these situations, or when we prioritize short-term profit over humanity's future and the Earth's future, when we've disconnected from the Earth. And then the other outlet is I created this program for women to understand each stage of their menstrual cycle and how each of these stages are a power. And very often women will suffer through what we call premenstrual symptoms, feeling moody or more erratic, and that even corresponds to this, like, perimenopause phase that a lot of women are facing now, which is caused by our internal changes of hormones. But I think a lot of the world has wanted us to be linear beings that are productive, when actually we are not linear beings. We are not necessarily meant to be at the same level of productivity throughout the month, throughout our life. And that's okay, because that's what nature has created us as. And I think there's a beauty in that as well. There's a gift in each of these stages. And I really believe that part of my work here is, again, helping people reconnect with love, with really grounding into the heart, finding that enoughness within themselves, but also empowering more women to find the power within their womanhood, which has been really repressed from this society, all the way from religion, either stereotyping us into the Virgin Mother or the prostitute, and there was no in between, when actually Mary Magdalene was Jesus is equal. And I think maybe there's a lot of controversy around it, and there's no, let's say, truthful.
You know what? You said it perfectly right there.
Mm-hmm.
You want a partner that's equal,
mm-hmm.
not submit. Well, equal in the sense of
co-contributors.
What's that?
Co-contributors, right?
Yes, I think that's where the discussion, when we're talking about relationship, was about equal, someone who is, and I think you're right. When you look at Magdalene and Jesus, they were equals. They weren't competitors to each other. I guess that's what it is. Like, when you see different values, there's always more competition. But when you see there's no competition and it's just collaboration, like what we do on Substack is all about collaboration. It's all about that stuff.
Yeah.
The more that you do that in your relationship, I think that's where you're more heading to. I think you're in your life.
It's complementarity, right? So yes. If a man is completely, and I'm going to use masculine and feminine polarities the same way I would use plus and minus, which is not saying all men are masculine and all women.
You're not offending me. We have masculine. Somebody out there. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we have masculine and feminine within every one of us. But if a man wants to be the provider, then of course the complementarity of that is going to be to find a woman who is in her receiver. But if a woman for me personally, I am ambitious and I want to create and I want to keep existing in my community outside of the role of a wife or a mother. So I would need to find a partner that is comfortable with that also is comfortable having these more out there conversations, or it doesn't need to be fully aligned with my way of thinking. And actually, I prefer if it's someone who's challenging it, but I think it's about complementarity. So I couldn't either be with someone who's completely married to their job and nothing exists outside of their work, because I also want to create something together. But I also don't think I could be with someone who doesn't have a certain ambition in life. And that can be defined in many, many ways. It doesn't need to be about status and career and money.
Yeah. No,
but
you gotta have purpose. When you
yes,
come down to it, it's about purpose. It's about purpose, equality, I guess, or equal
compatibility.
compatibility, all that stuff.
Yes.
And then the number one thing that you keep referencing through our whole love. And one of the things that I notice is that every Christmas we're joyful, we're peaceful and lovable. The answer to that is, why can't we be that all year round? Why does it have to be one part of the year? And why does it only have to happen one part of the year? That spirit should be in every single day of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I think Christmas can be a very jarring time for people who don't have a family, or who have a terrible relationship with their family, or who've had terrible things happening during that time. So I see both sides of it. But our essence when a baby is born is love, whether they have a loving mother and father or not. It's love. When an egg is forming and fertilizing in a woman's body, what they're receiving from the woman's body is unconditional love, because it's their needs are being met without them even expressing it, and life is developing without any effort. We don't need to earn it. But we exist in a world where we need to earn everything. We can't just exist, because if we exist, then we stop being able to afford to exist.
Right.
And so I think part of the system and the matrix that we live in, and that I've evolved in and I still evolve in, is to take us away from that essence, because the more we're out of that essence, the more we consume and buy things to help us fill that hole, and the more we look outwards and like, why do I not feel right? Or maybe I need like a better car, or like maybe I need this new watch or this new handbag, or maybe I need to like get my hair done, or get like Botox injections so I don't see these wrinkles. And all of these things are valid, but I think everything in life comes from a place of wanting love. And whatever we do in life, it's either for love or from love. We're either here to share our love, or because we want love in return, or because we're looking for love. Whether it's a pay rise, a promotion, new car, a partner, or whatever we're looking for, we're always looking for love. And I'd say even when someone's going at war in another country, what they want is power. But what is power is this respect. And respect is what? Actually, the bottom line of it is love. But there's this kind of twisted way of trying to obtain it. And I think love is our essence. If everything gets stripped away tomorrow, like the only thing that remains is love. And and I think fear and doubt and anything is always taking us out of that. And that's okay, because that's why we're human. And if you believe in us as a spirit, as a soul, our soul is pure love. And our human is here to feel other emotions, to be distracted, to meet, to be in the shadow, to have behaviors that maybe go against your own values. And all of that is just what makes us human. But at the essence of it all, we're love. And so, and you know, when I had this epiphany moment whilst I was meditating, and maybe that's some form of enlightenment, I don't know, but it was like, wow, I remember I was in the US when 9/11 happened. And I remember being at school and seeing all the the kids being picked up, and I just felt something was happening. And then my mom picked me up and she told me what was happening. I was 15 at the time. And then we had a 1 minute of silence. And I remember the emotion that I felt into thinking, what, the whole country, the whole world is having 1 minute of silence in this moment. And fast forward, 20 years, 25 years, I was like, well, imagine if the whole world would stop in one moment for 5 minutes and just remembered their essence as love. Like, what could happen afterwards? What if everyone just pause the meeting, not pause the surgery, but kind of like, okay, in these 5 minutes all over the world, we all stop what we're doing and we're focusing on love. Because what's more important than that anyway?
Nothing. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, that's, yeah. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, that's kind of like what we want in life, right? And you wishing that for the world is probably the biggest thing. It's the biggest gift that you could ever give. Wanting the world to be at peace and love.
Yeah.
And that's
everything else is distraction. It's an illusion.
It's irrelevant. Everything else is all irrelevant, and wanting that's huge. So what's next for you? What are you doing next? Are you writing a piece now? Or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm in many, many directions. And honestly, that's the main inner conflict, I would say, right now. Is it's as simple as I just said. It could be, that even my nephew a few years ago said, you really need to write a book about love because you seem to have a lot to share about it. And I've written many pieces about it on Substack. But then I get distracted. I'm like, but I really want to write about the elements and about the woman's cycle. And actually, I want to empower women. And so I get pulled in all of these directions. And but I think, to me, this journey back to love for myself is actually the main thing. I initially had this vision for the world, but I realized, oh, yes, when I have this vision for the world, the first person I need to do this for is myself. I even had another revelation a year ago where I said I want to find a way to generate love for anyone in the world, for the darkest places. And sometimes we think, let's send love to the people who need it the most. But I said, what about the people who, in our opinion, deserve it the least? What if we spent 5 minutes and send love to these people? Could that shift their behavior as well? Because I think sometimes they feed off of the anger and alienation that we're sending their way. And again, I thought, a few weeks later, I was met with this part of myself that felt so unworthy of love. And I realized, it wasn't about sending love to these people that are portrayed as being the biggest villains on earth, but it's actually the villain within me. And so where am I going next? I've been in a process of, since quitting my corporate job and my more, let's say, comfortable, secure way of living. I've been creating, I've been following the thread, I've been meeting people, I've been expanding, I've been creating a group here, a collective, a meditation program, a nutrition and healing program. And now I just turned 40 and it felt like a portal. It felt like a portal of, okay, everything could disappear. And I'm often playing with this concept of like, everything can disappear and then what's left? What really matters and what do I want to bring forward into this new decade? And I'm here to marry my inner masculine and feminine. So my masculine was running the show when I was in London. My feminine ran the show until now, and now I want both of them to meet and create something meaningful. And so I'm really in that pivotal moment. And there's many avenues in which it can go into, which sometimes sends me into analysis paralysis. But then I return to love and trust. So yeah, this is where I'm at right now.
So with that said, how do So are you going to publish another article here shortly so people can?
Yeah, I actually just wrote one before we came online, so that's gonna come out tomorrow.
Okay, cool. And what is it called? What's
Let me check what it's called because I've already forgotten.
that's right.
It's called something.
It's called something. Okay.
It's called something. It's called "Love as Our Essence Does Not Serve the System. What drains you benefits from you not knowing what fills you."
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's been over a year that we've been connected, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I wish you as much success on here too, because I think what you're doing is the right thing for our community. I
Thank
think
you.
we need more of that and less of the other stuff. And so thank you very much for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, it's coming from France and on here, it's 6 hour difference and things like that. So it's kind of difficult to come on, but I do appreciate you doing that, and I hope everybody else enjoyed this conversation. This was a kind of a conversation that went in different directions, but I think it was very meaningful and very helpful for people, and I very appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, John, and yes, for your interest.
Yeah,
And for giving me a platform to share my voice as well. So
you're more than welcome to come back anytime. So when you're ready to launch something, please do, because I don't know if you know this,
amazing.
but I am trying to give back to this community. And one of the things I'm working on is called a project called Author, and it's oh, I forgot the name of it now. Let me see if I can find it. It's Artists United to Help Others. That's what it means. It's a creator-driven publication or publishing support ecosystem built by independent authors, podcasters, storytellers, readers, and creators to believe in creators grow stronger together. So it's a community that I'm building, and we're on a
Beautiful.
beta. Yeah, we're on a beta site right now. People are starting using a little bit and trying to get out of the quirks things, and hopefully I can launch that soon. But that's
Nice.
that's part of the stuff that you're talking about is giving back to the community, because I truly believe you'll be seeing a lot of my posts now that I'll be showcasing a lot of the publisher or the authors on here that published a book, and
Very
hopefully
nice.
give them recognition, and hopefully people will pick them up. And I think that's what we need to do as a community, as a world, is to to help us grow together and
Yeah.
to help each other. And I think what you just said is very profound, and it's one of those things I don't think a lot of people really understand that until you hear it and you feel it, and
Mm.
definitely hear it and feel it. And thank you, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I do have a 14 days of love meditation program. If anyone's interested, it's automated through WhatsApp and helps people reconnect to their heart with
Oh,
the
it's
voice.
on. Is
My
it on
voice.
WhatsApp? You're saying?
Yeah, yeah. So
So
the link is on my Substack, and some of the articles I put it there. And the next one it will be, so you can sign up, and then it gets sent to your WhatsApp. Yeah,
awesome. Thank
yeah.
you. And thank you for everybody for joining today. Appreciate your time, and thank you. And wow,
Sounds
appreciate
good.
it. Yeah, this is the summer of beaches and sunshine.
Exactly. And work and
and,
meaningful work.
and meaningful work, purposeful work.
Exactly.
Hang
All
on,
right.
hang on a sec, and I'll close it out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.